welcome back to another episode of the Soup Bowl. I am your host, Renee Murdoch, and I am so happy that you are here, that you are listening, that you're liking, that you're subscribing, that you are doing life with me, and that you're telling other people about it. Hey, I'm just so happy to be on this journey with you. And as we know, right, that anytime we get in the Soup Bowl, life gets messy and anything is bound to happen out here in these streets. So here we are on another day, as someone would say, above ground, but just another day to just be thankful and be grateful for the Lord who is just, breathe breath and life into us on today, at least for me. So I don't know what you believe, but I believe that the Lord gives life, right? And he taketh life. But I just was reflecting on this week, and I had jotted some stuff down, and I was thinking about, leadership, and then thinking about relationships, and just thinking about, the process, the cycle that relationships go through, right? If they're going to be lasting, if they're going to be impactful, and what does that look like for a team? Right? And so we could think about this in a way of teams within the workplace, and we can also think about in teams in, volunteer organizations, and we could think about it as far as like our own families or whatever, team concept, right? Because if you're a family, then you definitely should be a team. If you're not thinking in a team concept, then we need to change your thinking on today as far as doing life, whether you want to be a team or not, right? So if you're thinking about doing life with someone, right, there's this team concept that must be in play. And so I literally have wrote one thing, and then it kind of went into something else. And so I started off with a strong relationship equals strong leadership. And it takes, segments, right, to get to the strong relationship. I believe a strong relationship is about going through, right, the seasons and the time with people. Because we like to be in lives. I'm saying we, it's just us as people. It's been like we like to be in people's lives when everything is going well and everything is going great or whatever, right? We really have not dealt beneath the iceberg, so to speak. We haven't got into, the deep things, right, that begin to come up. And so even in a family, I'm just thinking about this now, even in a family, right, you have your children, and when they're small, right, there's not much, there's not much combating, right? They're babies, you feed them, you change them, you provide for them, they give you smiles and coos and woos, and you're like, oh, they're so cute and tiny, right? And they start walking, and they're just the cutest little thing, and then they start talking, and then they're just saying stuff, and it's just like, oh, that's just so cute, like, and you want them to repeat after you, right? And that's, again, it's above the iceberg, it's not beneath. Right? And so, but when they start really conversating with you, when they really start forming their own views and their own opinions and things of that nature, that's when we begin to dive deep. And so that strong relationship comes from, can I continue in this relationship and wanting to get to know this person out, even the more, or am I just going to dismiss them and walk away? Right? And so if I work on getting to a place of having a strong relationship, then there can be strong leadership, right? Because leadership is all about relationship. Everything that we do in life is about relationship. And so if I'm saying that I want to lead, right, in my life, I'm leading in my family, I'm leading within my job, with leading on a team that I'm volunteering with, that I understand that it's about relationship, forming relationships with people, not just having a transactional thing. You do something for me, and then I'll do something for you, right? There is nothing that is going to come from that other than that transaction. So that makes us limited, right, in how that relationship plays out. And so in saying that, It says, no matter how skilled or experienced you are, leadership thrives on connection. If you want to lead well, start by building real relationships. And so I want you to ask yourself, how are you being intentional about building that relationship? Right? Is there a relationship, with your spouse? Are you being intentional about building that relationship? Are you intentional about building a relationship with your children? Are you intentional, not just, you might go to their activities, but when you're at their activities, are you really being intentional about being involved and looking to see what they're doing so you can have a conversation afterwards in reference to that activity? Or are you just, working on your laptop, reading a book, or whatever? And so you don't really know what they're doing, right? You just dropped them off at their activity. Are you being intentional about getting to know the teammates that's among you at work? Excuse me. So that you have to be intentional about building the relationship. Today I literally shared about this time where Murdoch and I, were growing apart because of transition and jobs or whatever, and we were just further away. He was over here in another country and I was over here, right? And so over time you're drawing away from one another. And so I literally said to him one day, I don't even know who you are, right? I don't know who this person is. You've grown into this other person that I have no clue. And I've grown into this person and you have no idea. And so we're constantly, just bumping heads. Constant friction is happening. And then I had to get to a point where I was like, you know what? Do you want the relationship, right? Or do you just want to be like deuces because this ain't working? And so I made a conscious decision that I wanted it to work. And the only way that it was going to work if I was intentional about building this relationship back. Not the way it was before, but building it even better than where we were at. So I think, when we think about, how are we building these relationships, and then how are we building trust, right, within those relationships? Again, that's being intentional, right? If you're saying something, don't just say something and then don't do, right? Show up, right? Show up for people, be honest with them, right? If they share something with you, can you, hold what they shared with you in private before, you're sharing it publicly? Okay, another example. I had to tell Murdoch, yo, when we go somewhere, stop using me as the punchline. Use yourself as the punchline sometimes, because he likes to joke a lot or whatever. But I literally had to pull that joke up by the collar. Okay, I did. But it sounds good. But seriously though, I'd had to tell him I am not your punchline. Okay, so find something else, right, to talk about, joke about, joke on somebody else, whatever the case may be. And because you joke on me, I'm gonna come at you. And usually my jokes are not funny, but they're funny to me. But people tell me, no, Renee, that's not funny. That's really hurtful. I'm like, what? So I really don't try to joke. I really don't. I usually piggybacking off someone else. Or sometimes I do have some really good some really good punchlines. I had one this morning. I can't tell you what it was, but it was really good. To the point where Murdoch, he laughed. For real laughed, right? But anyway, so that was the first part of that. And so another part of it is that I wrote was the challenge is worth it, right? The challenge is worth it. If you're going to build a healthy and strong team, it's going to be challenging, right? But it's going to be worth it. I talked about that time span. I literally think it was almost 2.5 years, right? That we're not under the same roof for more than 3 days at a time. Yes, more than 3 days at a time, right? And so you're talking about all this time that's apart, right? And then you're trying to come back together. And come on. We all know out there, we done been in relationships or whatever with a significant other and how challenging it can be, right? Just being in the same space, just getting to know somebody. You thought you knew them, but you really don't know them, right? And so that can be challenging, right? Coming into a space where our quirks and things of that nature, when I say people would just bother me, right? And then I started saying, I be bothering people too, right? Like they're bothering me and I'm bothering them, right? Based upon, how we function and how we operate. Someone was telling me, I am just, I'm just not a morning person, right? And so, although I had to get up and go to work, I wasn't morning, but everyone knew that worked around me, like, do not come and talk to me before 11 a.m. because I can't. If I'm dealing with someone that's like you, Renee, that's all perky, whatever, it's draining, right? And then I'm the opposite, right? I'm the morning person. I'm like, hey, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. I'm just so perky in the morning. And I'm like, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And you better say good morning back. You better say it back. Because if not, I'm coming for you. No, I'm kidding. But no, if you don't say good morning back, I am literally like, hey, you didn't say good morning. What's going on? And so now this flyby good morning turns into, what's going on with you? Or did you not hear me? You having a moment, it's not going well for you, what's going on? So, I'm the type of person, like, I could literally have an effective meeting at 6 a.m. in the morning. Yes, 6 a.m. in the morning. We could be on a meeting together, and I am fine. But come around 2, it's on the downward spiral. It's on the, like, if it ain't nothing really, popping off or anything of that nature, I'm on the downward spiral, whatever. And then literally by 3, it's like, 3, 4, I'm like, whew. And then I might catch a second wind right before the end of the day. And then I'm like, I gotta go bed. But that's the part of, like, learning the people that's around you, and that can be challenging, right? To deal with that, right? Knowing that every great team, right, goes through these stages, and you may or may not heard these before, but they go through the stages of forming, right, storming, norming, and then performing. You cannot get to performing without going through the forming and the storming and the norming. It's impossible. And the challenge is, well, not the challenge, but the thing that people try to skip through, right? They want to form and then they want to go to perform. It's not going to happen. And so then you're irritated, you're frustrated because we haven't taken the time, right, to storm and then norm, right? So what are those things that we're not understanding with one another? What are those things that we need to reason with one another? What are those things that, that we need to come to a consensus with, right? And then it starts becoming our norm, right? Then we can perform. So you ever been on a team before and, like, your team is, like, working out really, really great, right? You're like, oh man, everybody's great, everybody's vibing, everybody's this and that, whatever. And then a new person comes along and the whole dynamic shift. Yes. Because now you have restarted back again to the very beginning of forming. And so, ta-da! You start over again because there's a new dynamic in play. I remember I was on a team, just like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great team. Like, I mean, we don't think alike, but we really vibe off of one another. And we really value and respect one another in this space for what everyone has to bring. Like, it was just a great team. And it was so refreshing because it didn't take us long to get there. It did not take us long to get there. And I had always said to the management that put us together, like, you have done a great job in forming this team, like picking the right people. Like, I don't know, what was your method? So I just kind of, like, really was trying to, get in this person's mindset of, like, how they did this. But then 2 new people came onto the team and it just shifted the dynamic completely to the point where our team disbanded. Which was sad. It was, but there was still some of us that stayed in contact and touch or whatever, but it disbanded. And it was really just, I was like, oh man, this is like, real life action of like what happens when you just try to, go from one thing all the way to the end of the thing and not really take care of the stuff in between. And so there was never a consensus of, what we needed to work towards anymore, and where people didn't, feel like they didn't have to do certain things and pull, whatever. So it was all of that, right? And so we ended up disbanding. But in that, I was like, you can't skip the hard parts, right? And that's where the growth happens. When you stick with the hard parts, right? I'm just going to talk about, my relationship with my spouse. I couldn't skip over the hard parts. I wanted to have this great relationship and have such a great, marriage and be able to like, I got to do this and just do that or whatever, and not go through the hard stuff. And I was praying and I just wanted it to just voila happen. And it was like, that's not happening. And so we had to go through some hard stuff, right, to get to where we are now. And it's not like, rose petals every day, but we are in such a wonderful place, that I don't have to, I am more mindful, right, because I can just like right there, and then he's more like, like I ain't hearing you, what I'm saying? But we had to get through the hard parts, right? And so that we were able to grow, and not only that, but grow together, right? So don't quit in the midst of the storm stage. You got to lean into that. Lean into the conflict. Lean into the frustration. Lean into the listening and not wanting to respond before the person either gets out what they have to say. Don't cut them off. Be there. Listen to what they have to say. And you're listening. And then ask them, do you mean, is this what you're saying, to make sure that they know that you're listening, right? And that you're concerned about their concerns, right? And that you all, again, can come to some type of resolution. Excuse me. All right, so the third thing was conflict and common ground. You won't find real appreciation without facing conflict. You will not find it. It will not be there. Conflict is unavoidable, right? So those of you that don't like conflict, you must have it. You must engage in it. It's not bad, right? You don't need to be, telling people off and throwing things and all this type of stuff to have conflict, right? So us having a conversation is conflict, right? And in that conversation, we might not agree on something, but you must have the conflict, right? To make sure that you get to common ground. Learning to manage disagreements and seek common ground builds depth. That's when value and understanding begins to grow. So the next time tension arises, ask yourself, what are we missing together? Right? You want to ask the person, what are we missing together? Ask the team, what are we missing together? Because this is togetherness. It's not an individual thing, but what are we missing together that we need to, come to some type of conclusion with? Because there is a conclusion at the end of the day. And it's not just, forget you, I'm out. So I'm just, again, curious, right, about, how we think that we're going to have these strong relationships, and we're going to have relationships over time, and have relationships that are valuable, then, not being in a space where we're not willing to grow and be intentional about, having that strong relationship or building that team up. Everything that we're doing in life has to be intentional. Like if you, for us ladies, if you're trying to make sure that you're looking nice for wherever you're going for that day or whatever the event or occasion may be. You're being intentional about what you're doing, right? You're making sure your outfit matches whatever that means to you. You're making sure that you're dressing according to whatever the season is or whatever the event is. You're dressing, again, according to the best color palette that looks with your skin tone. You're making sure you're wearing your makeup in this style, and you're being intentional about it, right? Everything was intentional. Your earrings were intentional. Your socks were intentional. Even your bra and underwear were intentional. Okay? It was intentional. The perfume, the oils that you're wearing is intentional. So can we take that same intentionality and put it towards our relationships? Put it towards building a strong relationship? I think so. I think we can. But I think we have to look at it in another way. All right. The next thing was trust before the results. It's almost like faith, right? Like faith is evidence of things not seen, right? And so can I trust before I see the results, right? And so people are like, well, I trust until I don't see it, or it's the other way around. I'm really not good with those analogies. So anyway, but productivity doesn't come from trust, right? Without psychological safety, creativity and results suffer. Trust is the soil. Everything else grows from there. Find one way that you can show that you are trustworthy to your team, right? So remember, I think earlier, maybe 10 minutes ago, I mentioned about, can someone come to you, right, and speak in confidence and you not go share what it is that was said, right? So, it was so funny because somebody had took me right somewhere. I was like, hey, where are you at? Can you take me here, whatever, and wherever. And I was like, yeah, I can take you, right? And so I was getting something to pick up or whatever. And so, they were like, so then we went to the event. And at the event, everybody's just talking, right? And then they started off with, where I had to take Renee today? And then I just looked and I was like, what? Like, is that necessary? Like, why do you have to tell these people where you took me today, right? And so I simply said, they were like, oh, no. And I was like, I simply said, oh, he took me to the store to get some tampons, right? And so that made the person so uncomfortable, right? Because I'm just like, you're not going to sit up here and say why we went to the store. Like, where'd that come from? Do you need something to talk about in this particular setting? Because I can give you all types of topics other than that one. Like, no one needed to know that, right? And so it's also the conversation I was talking about, like, I had to let Murdoch know, like, yo, you're not going to be using my name when we go inside and we sit down and just, chatting it up. You're not using my name. Find another person, key in on them and use them, but you're not using me. You're not, okay? And so sometimes some things don't need to be said. Like people come to you and they share information with you and then you go share with someone else, or you say it to the rest of the group. And it's like, well, if I wanted to say it to the rest of the group, then I would have said it to the rest of the group, but I didn't. I came to say it to you, right? Because I was expressing what was on my heart and what I was feeling. And I thought that I, had a safe place, right? So again, psychological safety. It is needed in our relationships. And without it, you don't have any trust there. And so that's where you begin to build on trust. Like you can be in an environment, right? And then it's just but it could be toxic, at the same time. So who's responsible for creating that? Who's responsible for creating that safety, right? The leadership is. Okay. And then my last point is embrace the process, right? We want honesty, we want values, and we definitely want results. So, are you leading, right, your team through skipping straight to performance, or, right, are you going through the process so you can get the results that is needed? Needed in life, needed in your individual growth, right, in collective growth, needed in your family, needed in, your job, is it needed? And I would say yes, because great teams, right? Strong relationships equals strong leadership. Strong leadership equals strong teams. And so when you look at organizations and things that they're producing, it's because they have strong teams. And that must mean that they must have strong relationships. When you go into places like, I think Google, and you go to like their corporate space and you see how things are set up, it's really a team concept. There's no individual type thing, like even like their lounge area, their cafeteria area, their workspace area is just all about collaboration and connection and building relationships to get what? Results. To get results. A lot of times we want to work in vacuums. And again, we are not meant to do life by ourselves. So why work in a vacuum? You're only one person. That means that you only have this one thought about this particular thing and this ideal. But if I work with other people, then we can be more creative and get results, right? And then we share in the work, we share, right, in the load, and we can get it done faster. And so, I just really, want to press upon you that we must be intentional, in reference to what we want when we were saying that we want better relationships. Like if you want a better relationship with your boss, or you want a better relationship with your coworkers, what are you doing to create that relationship? And then just really think about it. Where did it go wrong, right? Where did it go wrong? And it's not always about, what they did, but what did you do? What did you do? No, what did you do? And can you come back from that? I think you can. I believe you can. But to come back from it means that you got to get vulnerable, and you're also going to have to get intentional about it, right? Can you go back and say, hey, I know we started off on the wrong foot, and, I want, us to collaborate together and make sure that we're able to work together in a healthy environment. How can we come together, right? How can we do this together? And if you did do something wrong, then admit your fault, ask for forgiveness and keep moving on, right from there. I remember just last week, just a small incident that could have been something big made it bigger than it was if I had not been, having self-awareness. And so I had went into a conference room, I placed my stuff down, then I went back out to take a phone call. And then I came back in as they were about to start to begin or whatever. And I noticed that my stuff had got moved over, right? So where I was going to sit at, now someone else was sitting there and they had moved my stuff over. So I was like, what? And so they said, oh, sorry, I moved your stuff over because I wanted to talk to this person and I didn't want to be talking across you, and I'm like, well, yeah, no, you're not going to be talking across me, but, okay. And I hope it was okay. So me being the honest person I was and not really being mindful of what I was saying because I was actually feeling some type of way about this phone call that I just had. And I just say, you know what, I probably should have took that phone call later on in the evening when I got home. But at that time, I was not using wisdom. But anyway, so I kind of was just like, yeah, I did mine, and so they was like, oh, because who says that? Usually when somebody's like, I hope you don't mind, usually people be like, oh no, it's okay. But I was like, yeah, no, I did mine. And they was like, oh, I'm okay. No, go ahead and sit there. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, no. So I was having like an adult tantrum, But then, they was like, no, 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 come on, Renee, you can sit right here. You can sit right here. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm fine or whatever. And then it was like, I just didn't know it was going to mean that much to you. And then somebody else at the table was like, well, we could just shift over. And then people were getting up. And I was like, no, that's cool. I said, you know what? This is not the problem. And I said, I apologize for coming off like that. This is not the problem. I was like, I'm feeling some type of way about something else that just happened. And so I'm literally, lashing out this way, and I shouldn't be doing that. So please forgive me. And then that person said, I understand. We're in a very stressful environment. I did it last night. And so literally that quickly, right? Something could have turned into something else because I got to work with this person, right? Literally almost every day. And so something that small could have turned into something else if I did not admit my fault, right? And I did it quickly and asked for forgiveness quickly, right? And then realized that I'm not mad at this person. Just, okay, they moved my notebook. They shouldn't have, but they did. It's not a big deal, right? Whatever. There's another seat that was open, right? And so quickly resolved that and moved on from there. But again, if we want those relationships to be strong, right, we're going to have to be vulnerable. So I had to be vulnerable in that moment and say, ooh, yeah, I was wrong about that. I shouldn't have said that. This is why I said that. And, can you forgive me? And I was vulnerable in that moment, and also saying, yeah, I was on a phone call and, and it didn't go well, right? To one of the people that was sitting at the table after the meeting, in the hallway, was just like, Renee, are you feeling better? And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling better. I had a moment. I'm good. And so that's about building relationship, right? That's about being intentional, being vulnerable in moments like that. So in that, if you want the culture to change within your teams, right, in these different spaces, you must embrace every stage of growth with openness. Leadership is about guiding people through the process and not around it. You cannot skip around it. All right. So I believe that you can do this and that we can do this together, right? Strong relationships equals strong leadership. That's all we have for today. Went a little bit over. I thought we were going to be done early, but I think it just went a little bit too long. But anyway, hope you got something out of this today. Hey, I'm so happy again that you're here with us or whatever. If you want to hit me up and you want to throw out some topics out there that you have questions about, or you just want to just chat it up, or you want to hear what my thoughts are about it, you can contact me at info@formosaic.com, or you can go to www.formosaic and hit the contact us button. I look forward to hearing from you soon. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.